Welcome to the Upshot interview series. This is episode number 23. Today we are joined by Jeremy Big Germ Koling. You might know him from Jomez, where he does play-by-play commentary for pretty much every single one of their rounds. He is also a former USDGC champion and multi-time national tour winner. And Josh, Germ, as you might guess from Jomez, or if you've ever heard him in another interview, is a loquacious individual. And it's just, I could listen to Germ talk about disc golf and related topics for probably like 5 hours straight. I mean, he really just has a ton of insight. He's been around the game a long time. I think he's realistic about where his place is in the game. And I deeply enjoyed this interview.
Germ is one of those people, you can see a lot of media personas that, through commentary, podcasts, what have you, you can begin to see the kind of disconnect between their media personality and who they actually are when they transfer over formats and kind of get in depth on different topics. Big Germ is who Big Germ seems like. I mean, he is fun. He is outgoing. He says it multiple times. He's an open book. He's happy to talk about his place in the sport, his experience in the sport. And he's someone who I think is one of the reasons I really appreciate this interview and appreciate Big Germ is that I think that he looks at disc golf, not just about what disc golf has given him, but what disc golf has to offer the next generation of disc golfers and what he as an individual inside the sport can offer them as well. You can clearly see his care and compassion for this sport, for people, and for disc golfers is just exceptionally high, and that's something that I really appreciate.
Yes, absolutely. So we get into all kinds of different topics on this one, from his upcoming wedding to his play this season to who is the GOAT in disc golf history and who's the next GOAT. Man, I don't even know. Like, the topics are all over the place in this one, and I think you're really going to enjoy it. So if you're joining us for the first time, hit a little like, hit a little subscribe. You know what to do. And we hope you become a regular Upshot listener as well, either here on YouTube or in our podcast networks, wherever you get your podcast. So coming up next, Big Germ, Jeremy Koling, joins us here on the Upshot interview series. The Upshot is presented by Pound Disc Golf, makers of the best bags in the sport. And you know what? They make more than just disc golf bags. Check out their new Fly Pack. You can find it on the website, pounddiscgolf.com. It is the maximum carry-on size travel pack that you've been looking for. Backpack straps, or you can take those off and convert it into a duffel. It's got room for a laptop, a tablet, your clothes, your stuff, and you know what? Some disc golf discs, because obviously you're going to bring some on vacation. $299.99, and it's just a beautiful bag. You got to check it out. It's available in multiple colorways. Go to pounddiscgolf.com to check out the Fly Pack so that you can travel in style. Joining us now on the Upshot interview series is Jeremy Koling, aka Big Germ, longtime commentator for Jomez, and of course also a longtime touring professional, major championships to his name, and a whole lot more. Germ, how are you?
I'm doing great. Just finished the 18-hour trek from Estacada, Oregon we're in Denver, Colorado. We're just outside Denver, Colorado right now, but getting ready for the Match Play Championship this weekend. And coincidentally, I wasn't initially planning on coming here, but Jules's bachelorette weekend is here in Denver. One of her bridesmaids lives in Denver, so it was just a perfect coincidence that I got to drive her here and play a tournament as well.
That's awesome. Are you excited for this match play tournament?
Oh, absolutely. This is an amazing opportunity. I mean, I was very fortunate that there was a series of guys that could make it. And, with the points this season, I was next up after a few guys had other engagements and some other people were sick. And there's a couple of things that happened, but I am super happy to be involved with it because match play is I think it's my favorite event in disc golf. I mean, it's just something that I wish we had a more inclusive, bigger tournament that we used to have with the Players Cup that Steve Dodge would run at Twin Parks, I believe, down in Austin, Texas. And it's just match play is just fun. It's the camaraderie between the players, the opportunity to try shots that you wouldn't normally throw, and just having a different event is it's always nice to mix it up a little bit, and match play is great for that.
So I know that you had a DNF at Beaver State Fling. I don't know the reason for that. What happened at Beaver State Fling, and are you going to be in good form for the Match Play Championships this weekend?
Yeah, I'll be fine. I'll be fine. There
Okay.
so I had a long Facebook post about it, and there's plenty of people drop out of tournaments for a multitude of reasons, and um, you know, I don't think that we're necessarily obligated to get into it. I will get into it because I'm an open book. But like, I guess I mean to say that by saying, or I say that because I want to say that it's not like somebody should feel obligated to explain themselves if
Sure.
they feel like dropping out of a tournament. Um, I think that there's a stigma behind that I definitely believed in for a very long time because I was a stubborn warrior, quote unquote. Like I started this, I'm gonna finish it through better or through worse. And and that mentality is what got me to where I am. And I don't necessarily regret that I've felt that way in the past. But as we get older and we have more experience, we have more to draw on, and I start to feel different ways about different things. And I think that this weekend my heart was not in it. And on top of my heart not being in it, I have a series of other things that are currently going on that are on my mind that are very important to me. The only thing that I will say is, like, wedding planning is a huge stress that Jules and I we're trying to put together a great wedding, and it's only 150 days away, and there's still a lot to be done. And so that in itself is a big stress, but also all these other things that I put on my plate this year, which are all things that I've done willingly, are just add up, and they take up more space in the brain. And at a certain point, when you're out there on the course and you start to get lost on what am I doing this weekend, like, I have anxiety on this shot. I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel confident. I'm not enjoying myself. My good shots aren't fun. When I realize when I am playing well and I'm not having fun, I need to take a step away because I'm doing it for the wrong reason. And I don't play disc golf. When I'm playing tournaments, I'm not doing it for money. I'm not doing it for anything other than the love of the sport, the love of competition, the love of being out there with my peers. And if I'm not enjoying those things, then I have to reassess what is my purpose for being out there. And I started to feel that way this weekend. In the past, I've played poorly at many tournaments. I've been down the ranks in tournaments for the last 5, 6 years so many times that it's now becoming something that I'm quite used to. So it's not like pouting or quitting on that. It was, I'm not enjoying myself. I don't want to be out here. I'm out of cash, and it's going to rain all day, and we've got 18 hours to drive for next week. Like, let's put things in perspective here. And I felt like, when our mental health isn't strong and we're pushing ourselves to the limit in every possible way, it becomes dangerous to expose yourself to something that is going to cause you more anxiety, more stress, more pressure. And I felt like playing the last round of Beaver State Fling wasn't going to be an enjoyable experience. I didn't want to become a distraction for my card mates. I didn't want to do anything that would harm the event's integrity. I mean, not that I would, but like, I just know it was best case scenario for me and for Jules and for everyone involved, I felt like. And it was a very tough decision in the end because it's still, that warrior mentality is still in me, and I still want to finish everything I can as well as I possibly can. But this last Sunday wasn't it. I needed to say no.
So for me, this I think is a super valid perspective, to have, and it's not like you're obligated to play just because you signed up to play. It begs the question for me: should we have cut lines at more tournaments? Because in some ways, a cut line sort of naturally says, "Okay, time to go." You don't play the final round or the final two rounds. and you didn't play well enough this weekend. We'll see you next time. Would you support more tournaments having cut lines? Mostly we see them at 4-round events after the third round right now.
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't think that we need to see them at 3-round tournaments, because there's a lot of people that I feel like are right in that the 50 percentile that can easily make that push in the third round. And I think 2 rounds is too short of a data collection to say that, yes, we want to exclude these people from giving them one more chance. So I think 3-round tournaments, I think we should just play them out all the way through. I think that there could possibly be a stigma removed for those people who are in, the last 15 to 20 percentile from saying, hey, like, not interested, guys, like, I'm out. But I think all 4-round tournaments should have a cut. I think that it just makes the event go more smoothly. I think that, after 3 rounds, you've got a pretty good idea of who's got it this weekend and who doesn't. It is a bummer when you're right there on that cut line. When I've missed cash this season, aside from this past week, I've been 1 stroke out of that 4th round cut. And I tell you, it kills me. It kills the part of me inside that is still connected with this guy who was competing for championships just a few years ago. And I mean, like, getting used to that has been like a huge adjustment for me this season, because it's happened more regularly than ever. And it's been wild to see. It's actually really interesting to see the progression of what the cut line looks like in our sport. In the past, Sexton and Ulibarri and I, obviously the Jomez dudes, we talk a lot about these things before and after commentary. And, we talk about like how back in the day, like in the prime time of our career, early 2010s and, throughout the 2010s, we'd have to play so poorly that it wouldn't even it would blow our own minds how bad we'd played to miss cash. That was kind of like and then like late as more recent times come around, it was like, okay, we had to play pretty bad. And then it was like, you had to play bad. Now it's got to a point where to get last cash, bare minimum, you have to play really well. It's not even like it's transcended that like out of the realm of possibility into very much like every single week is a new challenge. It's not about like just winning or getting top 5 or top 10, top 20 or whatever your goals are. It's like, I have to play really well throughout the event just to make it through the end of the event, just to get cash. And it's pretty wild to see the influx of everyone's great. Everyone on the tour is awesome now.
Yeah, I have a quick follow-up before Josh has the next question. Do you think that's more a factor of you getting older, or do you think it's just because there's more people on tour who are getting better and better, and we just have, all the Europeans are back this year, so you have a lot more great players playing?
I will refer you to my rating, which, if we're going to give any stock into PDJ ratings, then let's give this some stock right now. And let's say, hey, Big Germ has been a mid to upper 10-20 rated player for the last decade. Nothing's changed in my rating. Nothing. So it's the influx of players as far as I'm concerned. I'm still roughly shooting about the same rounds that I've always been playing. I think that I've given up a little bit. I'm not going to lie. I think that what I've given up is more on the mental edge of like, I think after getting beat down over so many years, I think that a part of that fight, a part of that belief that like, I'm the man, I'm going to be the man, like whatever you have to tell yourself to like put yourself in that mental place to go in and like have that attitude and that tenacity and intensity and focus that you need to compete at your best. I think eventually that like dose of realism starts to kick in where you're like, I might not be the man. Like I might be like one of the dudes, but I'm certainly not the man. Like there are like 35 the guys. And I just, if I play well, I might be one of them. But, I'd say if that's the only thing that I would imagine has really changed with the age perspective. I mean, I'm still throwing over 600 feet if I need to. I can still throw a forehand 400 feet accurately. I can still hit gaps. I can still putt well. Like the physical nature of it hasn't gone anywhere. It's just, our experiences over time shape us into the way we go into rounds with our strategies and what risks we take and so on and so forth.
Changing gears a little bit, you've talked, about one of the things in the considerations at your choices at Beaver State Fling was the 18-hour drive that you had ahead of you for the next day. And you and I were chatting a little bit about kind of that scheduling. Do you feel like there are too many tournaments on tour right now?
No, I don't think there's too many. I think it's fine. Like those are all, the Silver Series stuff is completely optional. It has a quarter weight on the DGPT stand. Excuse me. So I mean, the lower weight means that it's, if you do well in the real in the actual tour series events, then you should be fine. I mean, are you talking about like just your A tiers, B tiers, C tiers that are across the country, or do you mean just tour events that the DGPT is?
Just tour the DGPT. What is
Yeah,
DGPT affiliated? They've
yeah,
talked about making it so that there's a tournament every weekend, whether it
yeah.
be Elite Series or Silver Series.
I mean, if they can facilitate that, if they can have the funds at each event so that these players can, there's players who aren't in a position to make their money through outside sponsors, through endorsement deals and whatnot. I mean, like that's how we got to the place where we are now. The guys that are, the lifers, the touring lifers, is we grinded through events, and oh my God, I would have done anything to have a Silver Series level event every weekend back in the day. And if it was on somewhat of a schedule, a flow throughout the tour, that would have been amazing. I couldn't get enough of playing back in the day. Nowadays I have the opportunity and privilege to be more picky and choosy on which events I play. And, that's great. Essentially right now, like at the beginning of the season, when people are releasing their tour schedule, I could just take a screenshot of Jomez's of tour schedule and just slap it as mine, because that's essentially what I choose for my tour, is just making sure I'm available for those events. Aside from any majors that they might not be a part of, and any small like local tournament that I like playing back home or something like that, like I'm basically on the Jomez tour, which is the top disc golf pro tour series events.
Go ahead, Josh.
Oh, Charlie, one follow up and something that you mentioned. You said that to me that it was nice to have kind of stayed in the Portland area for a couple of weeks and
Yeah.
to kind of settle a little bit. Is that something you'd like to see more of, where there are large metropolitan areas that maybe host, 2 Silver Series and a Pro Tour, or 2 Pro Tour events and a Silver Series even throughout the tour?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think that there aren't many places that can facilitate that because of the courses or amenities and whatnot, but Portland certainly can. Portland, when an atmospheric river isn't on top of the entire state of Oregon, Portland is a pretty amazing place to be. It's yeah, I've never seen so much rain in my entire life, especially not in the month of June. But that being said, Jules and I really enjoyed just being in Portland, going to Voodoo Donuts, going to Blue Star Donuts, going to hang out with Levi from Pound. There's so many good Salt and Straw. There's so many good places for food. But the courses are just great. Like Glendoveer, the first year we played it, and we already feel like it's a top tier course. I feel strongly that Glendoveer and Blue Lake, as a combination of those two courses, can make its own disc golf pro tour, which it did. But so could Milo MacGyver. I think that you easily could have a world championship out there. You could another one. The last one being 2014. You could easily have 2 pro tour events. You could even do 2 pro tours in a Silver Series, like you said. I mean, Trojan Lake is another really fantastic course, and we had a Silver Series last year that Adam Hammis won. And so, I mean, it's nice to be in a place where you can settle in for a while, get into a little groove, and the monotony of go play a tournament, set up, practice, play, travel, set up, practice, play, travel. That gets a little old, and it grinds you down a little bit. So when you can actually get to a place and settle down, especially for all the people that live in campers and RVs and whatnot, it's really nice for them. The people that are staying in the hotels, staying in one place for 2-3 weeks, I mean, it's not much different than if they were staying somewhere else in a hotel, but it's just nice. I think it makes things a lot easier for the touring players. But the problem is it puts a lot of stress on the infrastructure of the tournament guys because they're relying on the same volunteers to be available 2-3 weeks on end, and that's asking a lot of the local community. But all the other things, if they can sort that kind of stuff out, I'm all for it personally, and I think a lot of other people would be too.
So speaking of settling down, I'd love to hear a little bit more about your wedding plans. It's going to be in the winter, it sounds like. You said 150 days. Where is it going to be, and what's the plan?
Well, our wedding is right at the end of fall, or actually kind of in the middle of fall. It's November 11th, 11/11/22. We have a number synchronicity thing, and yeah, so it's it's coming up, and we are getting married. Well, we're marrying in Marion, North Carolina. It's where the disc golf national collegiate national championships take place. It's just north east of Asheville, North Carolina, by about 30 to 40 minutes or so. It's at this beautiful place that it's called North Cove Disc Golf Social Club, I believe. And it's a spot that was acquired right before COVID hit. It's a golf course, and they are putting, I think, upwards of 3, maybe more disc golf courses, ranging in a beginner to advanced to, I think they're working on a pro course right now. Andrew Duvall, Harold Duvall's son. And so it's just this beautiful location that's in the mountains. And when I went to the National Collegiate Championships in 2021, I was there in April, and I hadn't proposed to Jules yet. And the owner of the property came up to me and he said, "Hey, I guess, I know it's coming up at some point, but when it does happen, you guys have a free venue to get married here." And I was like, "Whoa, that's really cool. And how did you know that I'm proposing in less than a month? Like, that's pretty crazy." I didn't tell him that part, but I was like, "Okay, noted." And I had to make sure that Jules was okay with that location, of course, once we did get engaged. So we went and visited the area, and it's a long story, I'm not going to get into it, but there were 4 very distinct signs that this was like 100% the spot for us. And each time we saw a new sign, it was like, yeah, we're good. Like, we don't even need to see another spot. This is perfect. And so the location is it's just really beautiful golf course. It's got nice hills and big scenic trees in the background of every single shot you take. And we talked to a local there who said that the peak season for color change in the leaves is November 12th. And we're like, all right, we'll take November 11th.
Incredible.
That'll be good. So choosing fall is perfect for disc golf because the season's just over at that, right about that time. And a lot of people are going to be hanging out in the southeast part of the country anyways for like some lingering A tiers that are going to be going on in the area. So some of my touring buddies will already be in the area. But getting married in the mountains, getting married in fall, all that kind of stuff is kind of stuff that I was always circling, and it just required Jules to check it off. And when she said that was cool, then it was a no-brainer.
So you're going to have Jomez do the wedding video and then commentate on it next day?
Might not do commentary, but actually one of the guys from Jomez, one of the main guys who's responsible for doing our player profiles, a guy that does a lot of editing for the putting games videos that we put out during the off seasons. He is one of the main guys that we're talking to right now for filming. So yeah, Jomez is going to be a part of it in some way.
Love it.
Congratulations.
As they would naturally, of course.
Naturally.
Pretty good resource to have there.
How long do you think that you're going to keep playing events before you just go full-time commentary, which I'm assuming that that's something that you're interested in doing, and if you're not, to tell me otherwise.
No, I mean, getting involved with commentary has given me career opportunities past playing, and I've known that for a long time. My question is, I mean, to answer your question first, that is just that's a question I've been asking myself for the last 7 years. You know, I've been asking myself that for a long time. Like, I've been doing this for a long time now. I've been on tour as a professional since 2008, 2009. Every scenario that can take place, in some way, shape, or another has taken place. Every story has been told. Every experience and emotion has been felt, and and I love that. It doesn't mean that I'm done absorbing those things and experiencing those things. I still love it. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing it. But I'm constantly listening to myself, my body, my heart, my mind, my soul. Like, when I think it's time, then hopefully I can just leave it at that, and be even pickier on which events I do play, because I don't want to just give it up. I just don't necessarily want to be connected to the grind at some point of like feeling like I have to qualify for the Disc Golf Pro Tour Championships, and like feel like there's some sort of regulation on like what I have to do and perform, because that's just extra pressure that I put on myself. I don't have an answer to that, but as far as me doing commentary afterwards, that is so up in the air right now. With Jomez having a 2-year contract with Disc Golf Pro Tour, like there's uncertainty on post-produce coverage. I'd have no idea what's coming up with Jomez. I would love to work with anyone. I'd love to work with Jomez specifically, but I've done one event with the Disc Golf Network. I did one live last year at DDO, and I had a fantastic time. I love the pace of it. I love being able to fill in a little bit more color commentary in the spots where people are doing the transitions or they don't have a shot to show at this particular moment. It gives me a little bit more time to expand, which is something I like to do anyways, as you can tell right now by my talking habits. But
you're a podcast legend already.
Yeah, so that's I look forward to all that stuff. What shape it takes in the future, I'm not quite sure yet.
When you look at your work week, for example, how do you prioritize your competitive job versus your media job? Practice. You've got practice rounds that you film for Jomez. What is in your mind? How much time are you spending on both? How do you prioritize that? You have two very strong competing priorities here. So what does that look like?
That's a very good point. Well, it's a good question. Really, it is. The emphasis goes to Jomez because there's timelines and people have commitments to these times. So my practice round can shape and mold and form around those things because it's not a lot of other people attached to those things. It's just me. So I basically schedule my week based on when I have to tee off the first day, what time practice round is, which is always the same time, 10 o'clock Tuesday morning. The time, usually our putting games are. That's dependent on the location, but normally 9 or 10 a.m. on Wednesday or Thursday. So all the other times are like, Monday's a travel day. Normally we're traveling more hours than there are, more than there's time to go practice on Monday. So normally, and commentary is Sunday night, so I don't get to take off as soon as the tournament's over. I've got to stay until Monday morning. So we're packing up, we're leaving Monday. I'm just, let's just start from the beginning. I'm gonna give you the whole week schedule so you can kind of get a dose of what it looks like. All right. Monday morning, Jules and I are packing up the RV. We're getting everything ready to travel in the fifth wheel, and we're taking off. And let's just say an average time for travel between events is 5 to 12 hours. So we do those hours. We're usually getting in late evening, sometime middle to late evening. We're setting up shop. we're getting the RV ready, and we are generally pretty tired from travel, so we maybe put on a show or two and are going to bed. Wake up Tuesday morning, Jomez practice round, lasts about 3.5 hours. Get some lunch, and if I'm still feeling pretty good, I might go out and play a second practice round. If not, I go back and really make sure the RV is set up the right way, and maybe just decompress a little bit from the travel day. And I'm still decompressing from the tournament from before, by the way.
Right.
Wednesday morning, practice round or putting game. And then again, more of the getting lunch. And that's just kind of like Wednesday is like a pretty chill day. Thursday, I either decide if it is a 4-day tournament that I'm playing, but if it's a 3-day tournament, then Thursday is normally like my rest day. I get like one day to kind of just take a physical break, and Thursdays are usually my day. I might go practice putt a little bit. Friday tournament in the morning or afternoon, get food, maybe play a board game, and then before you know it, it's time to do commentary. Saturday's the same, Sunday's the same, Monday breakdown, travel, and we're at it again. And it's a lot. It's a lot. And then sometime in between, then we have to find time to go shopping for groceries. We have to find time to give a post or two to my sponsors, awareness to that. We have to find time to stop and smell the roses. Like it's very important that we're traveling through all these beautiful places. We want to stop and appreciate what this place or that place might have to offer. And it's not easy to do, but it's very important for us to be out here and to be traveling to enjoy traveling. Otherwise, like we're just passing up these spots and not seeing anything, and that kind of sucks. You don't want to do that. So yeah, it's a lot, and also we got to plan a wedding too. So it's just a lot of different things happening all at once.
Do you foresee any changes to this routine or your lifestyle in general after you get married?
I think 2023, we are at this time we are planning on kind of repeating this. This is the first year in the RV, and we got the RV with the intention of traveling and seeing the places and the sites and being together. And last year's formula, Jules was working for last year with the place with the corporate job that she'd had for over a decade, and it was tough, just being apart for so much time, me not seeing the dogs, me not seeing Jules, and not being together and all that. It was tricky, and we had to find a way to kind of bring us together and have to experience the tour together. And obviously getting the RV was the best way to do that. And it was such a huge financial investment into it that it wouldn't really make sense to do it just for a season. So we kind of, agreed that like, we're going to give this a couple years and see how this goes. And so that's the plan for next year. As far as 2024, that's up in the air. As far as being married, we plan on having kids, so we can't waste much more time on that. And raising a kid in the RV, even though Nate and Bree did that with Coraline, I don't know if it's necessarily the safest, soundest mental thing to do for both the kid and for the parents. So, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
All right, I have a couple specific Jomez questions. I mean, we've seen Jomez go. I mean, it's crazy. It hasn't even really been that long that we didn't have coverage of any meaningful sense. And then, Jomez, like 6 years ago now, 7 years ago, comes onto the scene.
Technically, yeah. Well, yes, we're celebrating our 10th anniversary, but yeah, it wasn't really until, like you said, 7 years that we really hit the road.
That it really became like a thing that was a regular thing that people could count on. And we watched the production quality obviously zoom upwards. And we've also seen a lot of people just have such a great connection with you and with Nate and with Paul in the broadcast booth. So how has the business side of that changed over time for you? I would love to hear, if you're willing to share, how much you make from your Jomez commentary gig, and if you have an equity stake in the company at this point.
That was something that I did fight for a little bit. I don't have any equity in the company, but that was something that I want to, and Jomez knows that I've been committed to the brand since day one that they've invited me into the booth. Since March 18th, 2017 was my first round. And since then, it's been 100% commitment to every single time I'm available for them. I'm there, and they know that. And so that part of it, has never been lost on them, and they've always treated me very well. The How much I make per round on commentary is funny because I'm an open book. Like I said, I don't really know the exact figure. I mean, it's in my contract, but like I've never really it's nothing crazy. It's nothing like I feel like it's a fair compensation, but I think always in my mind I've known that however Jomez compensates me, they're compensating me 10 times more because of the exposure to allowing me to be me and for the world to see that and for the world to connect with me and relate to me and giving me a platform to do that. Like I don't have the energy to do what Simon and Paul are doing and Ezra and all those guys and they're doing with their YouTube channels because that's just so much work. And Jules was like pleading, Jerem, do a YouTube channel, do a YouTube channel. I'm like, I already have a YouTube channel. It's called Jomez. I can't, I just, like the content stuff is great. And there's so many different things that I could provide for one of those channels. But right now it's not in my best interest just for the amount of time it takes. And so, anyways, Jomez gives me a platform to be myself. And that has allowed the Thunderbirds to succeed and for the Big Germ brand to be what it is. And so I'm infinitely grateful for whatever they offer me because they're already offering me so much just by giving me this platform every single week. And it's evolved from nothing. It was a volunteer basis. Like early on, we sat on a couch and we had a little Zoom microphone that sat in between, whoever was doing commentary. We just kind of like leaned over and talked into the mic. And, if you go back and watch like 2017, 2018 commentary, you're going to hear a different audio quality. Everything's different. I mean, they've always been very forward thinking, but like we didn't have audio files out there like complaining about the audio quality. And then one day we did. And then as Jomez grew as a brand and as a product, we wanted to make sure that we provided the best possible content that we could in every single way imaginable. And so each little thing is taking a step up. And as it did, the Patreon grew, the brand grew, the merchandise, sold better and all that stuff and allowed them to bring on more people. And right now, like Jomez employs like nearly 20 people. Like that's crazy to think 20 people for a commentary brand. Like we are providing coverage. It's not a commentary brand. It's a disc golf post-produced coverage brand. But I think of it as a commentary brand because that's my personal take in it. But it's a disc golf culture now. It's a completely different thing. And Jomez now at this point transcends, in my opinion, coverage. They are a part of disc golf the way that Paul Macbeth is a part of disc golf, the way that birdies and bogeys are a part of disc golf. Like Jomez is synonymous with the sport, and so being with them is easily, and I mean this, and easily the most rewarding part of my job. And it gives me so many opportunities and so many other outlets that aren't commentary or broadcast or production related. It is just they are the dudes, by the way. And if you don't know, those guys are awesome to work with. So it's very cool to be a part of that.
So you talk about how Jomez has kind of springboarded and promoted a lot of other things. What would, if you're willing, percentage breakdown? So like your disc royalties, what percentage of your income to your disc royalties, merch, what are the biggest pools that are making up your income percentage wise for you?
Well, when I was winning more money in tournaments, that percentage was a lot higher for the tournament money. And when you go on a little no cashing streak, the disc sales percentage goes way up. But even last year, disc sales 75% of my income, I think, roughly. I think Jomez is probably like 15 to 20%. Like how much I'm making in the season is negligible compared to Jomez, and Innova is easily, like, without Innova, I'm doing something completely different. We're not having a podcast today with us. Like this isn't happening. So I mean, Innova is the engine that makes this whole thing run for me. They are the I mean, I honestly don't know what I'd be doing right now. I hate to even think about it because I wouldn't be able to follow my passion at this late day in my career if it weren't for them and their support and putting out my disc, and all the fans obviously who support them, because it's I need both. I need the fans and I need Innova, and I need all of those things to happen. And if they don't, then I don't think I'm getting by with just Jomez money. Like it's like they do pretty well for compensation, but it's definitely like number one disc sales by far.
As it is for most pros. I mean,
it should be that way. I mean, it's the best method of showing what discs are popular, what players are popular. Like, I mean, like if you take a Thunderbird and you sell it, it'll do okay because the Thunderbird's a great disc. But if you put my name on a Thunderbird, I hate to put it as my name as an example, but Firebird, for instance, if you sell Firebird, they do well because Firebirds are a very good disc. But if you put Nate Sexton's name on a Firebird, it does a lot better. And I think that it's important for our manufacturer sponsors to understand what our value and strength is. And we didn't necessarily have a really good model for that in the past. That's why Ken Climo was probably underpaid for a long time, is because we didn't really have a Tour Series model back then. We just had Signature Series. And, we didn't. Ken Climo had the best molds. He had the Aviar, he had the T-Bird, he had the Rock, he had the Firebird, he had the Wraith. He had, back in the day, he had the Gazelle when the Gazelle was the best disc. And he's had his name on all the best discs of all time. So, like, of course, people are going to buy those discs because they're the best possible disc. How do we know how strong Ken Climo's brand is? And the Tour Series program, when they instituted that in 2015, it was the first time we could really see, like, oh wow, like a Firebird did well, but now it's doing really well. I wonder if there's something to this Nate Sexton character, And so it allows us to really understand brand strength in a new way. So it's a cool thing that all the companies are doing now, because they realized there was a successful program with the Tour Series, and essentially each brand now has their own Tour Series program, and players are now being compensated in a way that is much fairer than it was in the past. That's for sure.
Do you think that this model will continue to sustain moving forward, and will we see players able to basically make a living from disc royalties, even in I mean, we're seeing pro purses go up, but maybe not at a fast enough rate for that to be the primary mechanism by which people make money on tour, at least for another 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, I think it would be an interesting metric that maybe Ultra World or whoever's doing the articles could break it down. But like I'm interested in the top 10 highest paid disc golfers across the sport. What percentage of their income is earnings on the tour? That'd be an interesting thing to know, because at a certain point, earnings from tour make up almost all of the earnings for some of the professional disc golfers. But at a certain point, the players who are really well compensated, the Macbeth, the Wysocki's of the world, even if they had
donate their money.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Paul won a record amount of money last year. I think he won like $88,000 and sent it all to the Macbeth Foundation. And he made $1 million in his earnings from, that minimum base That's just base from Discraft. So you think about it that way, that is a drop in the hat. So it's less than 10% of what his earnings are from just Discraft alone. That's not including all the other things he has going on. But obviously, Ricky and Paul at the very, very top of that list at $1 million a year. But as you go down and you get to the Paige Pierces and the Nate Sextons, who are making a lot of money from endorsements and from royalties and from salaries, like what percentage of that yearly earnings, it's going to get closer until you get down to the people who are not, maybe haven't quite created that brand for themselves yet. So how sustainable the Tour Series program is, that's a good question. I mean, the sustainability, I think, is largely intact because of the turnover in new disc golfers that we have. The statistic that Innova shared with me years and years ago, and this is before COVID, was that the beginners in disc golf, which we define as people who have less than two and less years of experience, make up the majority of the disc golfers in the world, and that every year that number turns over. So those people who were lumped in to let's say 1 to 2 years, those people then get lumped into the rest of us, and then that 1 to 2 years again makes up the majority of disc golfers. So we can't keep up with the number of new players in our sport. And so with that being the case, as long as these players have strong brands behind their name and they have a good disc that is something that players want to throw, I think the Tour Series program is highly sustainable, just because of the number of new players in the sport.
As we, part of that building that brand comes along with spectators at professional events, and we see the number of spectators and spectator passes and the professionalization of that side of the sport. Do you, as a player who has, an incredible brand, an incredible following, lots of fans that are coming, do you feel that the Pro Tour does a good job of managing spectators, or do you still feel kind of like it's the term that Charlie likes to use, the Wild West, where any spectator could stop you at any time?
I almost said that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so.
I almost said the Wild West.
Perfect. Yeah. What is your sentiment then?
I think that we are in a golden age of growth and standardization. I think that there's a lot of things that Jeff Spring is aware of that need to change and will change, but each one of these things takes time. And it's not like you can't just say, hey, we need a standardized T-pad, and then poof, we all have the same T-pad on every single course. These things take a long time, but he is aware that that's an issue. Crowd control is definitely an issue that he's aware of, and these things take time. I think that we will look back on this era in a decade and be like, remember when people could just come up and ask for your autograph, like in the middle of your round, and then we'll laugh at it and we'll.
Remember when Corey Ellis's disc fell out of the bottom of the basket at the Beaver State Fling?
I heard about that. I didn't see that, but it's not the first time I've heard of that happening. Yeah, that's heartbreaking. I mean, it's absolutely heartbreaking. Yeah. I hope that we look back on a time when we can say, like, remember when a putt would spit through the chains to the other side of the basket? Remember when you had to shoot your putts like it was a basketball? And there's a big argument that will probably remain an obstacle in our sport forever. There's too many people stubborn on it has to come in with pace and accuracy argument. That we got a lot of old school people who are, it's not even old school people. Honestly, there's people on the new school side and the old school side that have the same idea on that. But anyways, that's getting off topic. I think that as far as crowd control goes and other things, I think that they're working tremendously hard every year to put new systems in place to get our sport organized and make it appealing to large broadcasts like ESPN and whatnot, so that it doesn't look like just some people in the woods throwing frisbees, to really showcase the athleticism and the drama of what's going on every week, to show off the power and skill of these players. And it's going to take time. I mean, it's leaps and bounds further along than it was when Steve Dodge started the Disc Golf Pro Tour. And it's leaps and bounds further along than it was when Jeff Spring and Todd Rainwater took over the Disc Golf Pro Tour just a few years ago. I mean, every year there's new things that they're doing to improve. And I mean, if you want to look at how far it's come, just watch video from 2015, from 2016. Watch video from 2010. Watch videos from 2001. I mean, excuse me, not videos. Watch VHSs from 2001. Like you're gonna see where we've come from, and I think that the roots of our sport are important and the approachability of it. But at a certain point, there also needs to be more. There needs to be bigger lanes for players to throw rollers and not worry about hitting spectators. But we see that in golf too, where players or spectators are lined up right out to shoot, and you're just like, oh my God, I would hit every single person in the head if I was hitting this golf ball right now. But there's got to be it's got to be managed well enough where the spectators can be in the mix and see the action, but also not be in the way. And a lot of that comes down to picking the right courses, because as we get into the woods, that gets harder. But we still want to play in the woods, so there's some really tricky obstacles to hurdles to leap over, trying to find the right solution in that, because we don't want to just play only golf courses, and we don't want to just play in the woods. We want to find a mixture of those two, and so there's no easy answer, I fear.
One thing we need to bring back, I can't remember exactly what year it is, but I think it was the first year, it was like early 2000s, that the US DGC paid $10,000 to the champion. And Jonathan Poole rolls in on a Harley and then dumps all the money on the table in cash, like big.
2007.
That
2007.
is incredible. I need that every time at these tournaments.
It was like
07. There you go.
It was, I think, 20 motorcycles. 10 or 20 motorcycles led by Jonathan Poole, and Ken Climo just laid down on this table of cash. That was awesome. That was my first USDGC, and that was it. That was incredible.
That one sticks with you, I bet. That's got to stick with you.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That was Climo's. By the way, hold on 1 second. I just have to think about it. Climo was kind of fresh on the scene in 1989. It was like, who's this long-haired blonde hippie from Florida, and his Ken Climo and his shorts that were like this long and long flowing hair. You got to watch some Laurel Springs disc golf on YouTube of Ken Climo. It's worth it. Okay, so you're that was 89. He won the USDGC in 2007. Think about that. That's 18 years later. I am not even 18 years of experience in disc golf, and I've already felt like I've experienced everything. And he was winning majors 18 years later. Like Climo, if you don't know, I mean, do some research. I mean, I don't know how new your audience is here, and I'm sure even the new guys are somewhat familiar with how good Climo was, or they've heard the name. But Paul McBeth is the GOAT, but so is Climo, and Climo's more of a GOAT than McBeth. 18 years and still winning the biggest tournaments. That's crazy. Anyways, moving on.
It is crazy. It's incredible. Laying down on a table full of cash after the motorcycle brigade. All right. So I want to talk a little bit about some competition stuff. I mean, you have one top 10 this season at Texas State, finished 6th. You're currently 32nd, which means you're qualified for the play-in for the Disc Golf Pro Tour Championship. I know how competitive you are. I mean, you've made it clear already in this interview. Are you dissatisfied with how you've played so far this year? And what are you trying to get past that 30s mark so that you have a guaranteed spot? Where's your head at with the competition side of the game?
I generally don't swear, but yes, I am absolutely dissatisfied. Oh my God. I'm so disappointed in how I've played for the majority of the season that it's I was only 3 strokes away from, I think, a tie for second place at DDO, and I ended up getting 13th or whatever. So I've been right there a few times. And I've touched on some of the experienced disc golfer that I expected to be at this point in my career, but not nearly as much as I like when I was a younger player. I was looking at the elder statesmen and Felberg and Avery and Nate Doss and some of those guys and Barry Schultz and thinking like, wow, like these guys are old dudes that are kicking butt because they are using their wealth of experience and knowledge, and they know how to golf. They know how to get around the course in a manageable way. And it's showing because idiots like me, idiots like 22-year-old Jeremy, 23-year-old Jeremy, I'm doing stupid things that I'm going to learn how to not do later on in my career. Well, I'm 36 years old. I am 100% elder statesman at this point, and I'm still finding myself doing these stupid things that got me in trouble 15 years ago, and I'm sick and tired of it. I still have that like, if I can do it, I'm going to try to do it mentality. And there's a lot of the Nate Sexton in me that I'm not allowing to just like, hey, dude, just like relieve the stress and just play for the safe score here. It's not even safe score. Play for the reliable score. I think when I get into this, like, I want to play safe, I end up messing up because I'm so not used to playing safe that I don't even execute the safe shots. So like choosing a reliable game plan is something that I need to do better with. I need to focus more on that kind of stuff. And I'm going to stick to the process. I think that I'm giving myself a lot of chances to do well. I just haven't necessarily tapped into my top potential of my skill this season, and not even close really. And every single season, at some point, I start to get into the groove and I start to understand how to score well. And I just haven't really gotten into a groove yet this season. And I think part of that was leading into the stress of Oregon last week, where I was just fed up with not being focused and not wanting to be on the course. And I allowed myself to give my brain and body a mental health day. And I just need to refocus. And honestly, I think it's very important. Events like this match play this weekend is a very important reset button because it taps into the fun of disc golf in a different way. Sure, there can be frustrating moments in match play. Like if you lose a hole with the other guy taking a par, that will destroy you because you never want to give up holes with pars or even with bogeys. I mean, I've lost a hole when the other player took a bogey, and that will whew, that's a tough one. But yeah, I mean, like this season has been very unsatisfactory as far as play goes, and I do not accept it. I still look at myself. I still hold myself to the standard of being a top level disc golfer. And when I don't achieve that, I am very hard on myself. I mean, obviously we're all our own worst critic, but I've been very, very hard on myself this season because I hold myself to a higher standard of disc golf proficiency. And I know that I will break through, and it's just a period of, I've just been through a lull, and that's it right now.
We were talking about this on our, is it our future show? I think it's our future show.
I think it's our future show.
We talk about it tomorrow on the podcast. We recorded our Thursday episode earlier today. But we talk tomorrow about like the challenge of skill sports and really sports in general of like going through these patches of time where you're not executing at the level that you want to be executing at. And we see it, across sports. You've had a long enough career where you've gone through these patches. What tends to get you on the other side and back playing well again?
I think just a belief in yourself that you know that it's not permanent. It feels very permanent. Like when somebody's depressed or going through a tough breakup or something like that, they oftentimes will think that this is going to be how it is forever. And it's not. The logical side of you hopefully is able to detach the current state of mind from the actual reality that it's just a momentary thing. And it's just being frustrated at yourself is fine. Having um, an awareness that it is not permanent, I think is really like the most important thing, because when I go out in my practice rounds, sometimes I can't believe how good I am versus how lousy my product has been. Like I'm like, wow, I'm the best, most well-rounded version of myself ever right now. My backhand is way better than it's ever been before. My forehand is the forehand it's always been. I know more than I've ever known. And, the putt when it's on is as good, if not better than it's ever been. So why aren't these things all lining up to the results that I'm looking for? And you just have to believe that it will happen. And knowing that you're not doing it right now is important, but not beating yourself up over it and giving yourself time and patience and space to allow it to just be a thing that's happening right now, but not forever, is a very important thing. And right now I'm trying to give myself a little bit of a break. It's hard because like you said, I'm an incredibly competitive person. When we started this podcast, I wanted to know what board games were behind your head so I could know what games that I was going to be beating you at next time I see you in person. Like
I'm tough.
like that's
tough, Germ.
I'm sure you are, but dude, I am tough too. And
Let's play at
the
Worlds.
disc golf,
Let's play at Worlds. You name the game, we'll
I'm
go.
down. I'm down. Like I don't go anywhere without a box of board games with me. So like I live for competition. I live for games. I live for that kind of stuff. And so when the thing that I've decided to put my career as a disc golfer, a professional disc golfer who plays tournaments, yeah, if I'm not playing well, I'm going to be extremely dissatisfied. It drives me absolutely insane. But it is a momentary thing, and I will kick ass again. And I've been saying this for a long time, and I will continue saying it. I will be the oldest winner of the USDGC. I will win that tournament again. So I already know that, and now you guys know that too. So congratulations.
Who's the oldest winner right now?
I think it's Climo. I think it's Climo. I want to be the oldest major winner of all time, which Johnny McRae would have been the oldest U.S. winner and the oldest major winner had it not been for 17. But 17 is still there, very much there, and it will be there for a long time, I think. So the major winner will always have to cross that fiery bridge when it's time. But yeah, I don't think we've ever had a 40-year-old major winner. Hopefully, I'm not 40 before I win the USCGC again, which I will. But if I have to be 40 and win it, I guess I'll just have to be 40 when I win it. Who cares?
I don't think I've ever had a chance to ask you this. I've always been so impressed that James Conrad won that tournament because he doesn't throw forehand. Yeah. What do you think about that?
I'm not. I mean, it's Climo won it 5 times. Barry Schultz won it twice, I think, twice or 3 times. Yeah, I'm not surprised in the least bit. That course, James Conrad generally does better on courses that people think are sidearm courses. He is one of the best of all time at the turnover putter, the turnover mid-range, the late turn driver. He gets the disc. Well, one of the things that makes him really great is he understands how to land the disc flat. And so on a turnover line, he's throwing a disc that is flattening out just enough so he's not getting skip and unnecessary extra ground play. And that is huge on a course like Winthrop, where all the hills are leading you towards out of bounds. And yeah, James having a second place and a first place finish is no surprise to me. It wasn't until, yeah, I guess me. It wasn't until I won it that we had a player who was a predominant forehand player. And then Nate, the next year in 2017, it was the first time that we ever saw someone who preferred the counterclockwise spin that actually went out there and achieved a win. And Macbeth throws a lot of forehands, and we'll credit that to him. But I mean, if you go back and watch how he won his first USDGC, it wasn't because of him going to the flick more times than not. But it's a very useful tool, and I think that most of the future winners of that tournament going forward are going to be throwing at least 30 to 45% forehand off the tee, or for their approaches.
Last question for me. You talked about, Climo in his own era and way was a GOAT. Macbeth in his own era and way was a GOAT. When you look at the ascendant young talent around you and some of the young players who are coming up and already just incredibly competitive on tour, do you see any of them who you feel could be, the next GOAT in their own way? Or any of them in particular that stand out to you?
Sports are cool. Like every era, I love it. I mean, like I've been lucky enough to see a good bit of Michael Jordan's career and to recognize that there was something special, and getting to witness all of Kobe's career and getting to witness all of LeBron's career, and seeing these best of the best emerge in their careers. And in other sports as well. I hate to say it because he stole it from us in 2004. But Tom Brady, obviously a GOAT. When you see these guys and you can appreciate what they're doing in their career, the Tigers or whatnot, it gives you a pretty decent perspective on like what kind of mental attributes these players have that establishes the difference between them and what true greatness looks like. Like, not just like I'm going to do well for a while, like sustained excellence over a period of a decade. Wysocki and Macbeth are obviously the two guys that in our sport have emerged as those players in our era. Seeing the next one right now, I see like potential for 10. Like if it seemed like for a bit that it could be this guy or that guy, and then like things happen and it's just like they just don't have that sustained excellence. And so it's always the hardest thing to predict. So much money has gone into predicting these people. Like in China, like kids are weaned away from their family and go to table tennis academies at the age of 3 or 4 years old, and then they go through these tournaments and these camps that take the best of the best, and then they get filtered into the next level. And that's why they are always the best of the best, because they have essentially crafted these athletes from childhood. And we don't do the same thing in America with our sports, but we kind of do, but not that intense. But like, it's so hard to see that right now. But I mean, like, you talk about like Gannon Burr and his consistency over the last 2 seasons says a lot about, man, if he's 17 and he's doing this now, or 16, I don't even know. He's too young for me to care about how young he is. He's too young. Cole Rodolin, like what he's doing, like the changes that I saw from 2021 Cole and 2022 Cole, like we're seeing guys who are not even 18 years old yet, who are doing things, who are adjusting their games. Like they have potential to be that next person. But, a very important thing that we have to account for in this new era, this next era, is that Macbeth and Wysocki didn't have to do what they've done with the scrutiny and the public eye of social media as big of an influence as it is today. And with those things, I think extra pressures come about, and the reading of comments, the understanding of what you do, what have you done for me lately because of social media, I think changes that scope in a big way. And the next generation is going to have much different pressures than we had to deal with in this last era. And so we don't really know what that formula is yet for what it takes mentally to overcome and to become the top dog. But we're going to see, I would have bet my bottom dollar that Eagle McMahon was that next guy. I mean, he's still so young. We forget how young Eagle is. But if Eagle is able to heal his shoulder up, then I think we have a next GOAT potential with him. Because he's gonna he'll be on the scene for much longer than Macbeth and Wysocki and whoever's great in this era. I mean, he's already lumped into that. So why would he not be a top candidate? But yeah, I'm excited to see. That's why my passion in the sport gives me great opportunity to have connection with these players and see it firsthand and be on the course competing with them. But I am just as excited to move on to that next era when that time comes, so that I can cover them as they create the legend of what is yet to come.
Well, this has just been fantastic. Germ, thank you so much for stopping by, and we wish you luck at the Match Play Championships and beyond. I see you're all signed up for European Open. You looking forward to heading across the pond?
So much. just like Match Play is a return to fun, going to Europe and seeing a completely different scene on a different level. It is the reward of all rewards to be on tour. I am so excited to head back to Finland. Jules and I are planning on making a slight detour on the way out to Finland. I guess I'm officially announcing, unfortunately, a lot of people don't know this yet because I haven't even contacted the TD yet, but I'm officially announcing that I am not going to be able to make it to Sula. It's just too fast of a turnaround after Idlewild. It starts Wednesday, I believe, and Idlewild ends Sunday, and you got to go to Norway. It's too fast of a turnaround. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to postpone my trip to Norway, my first trip to Norway. But Europe is very much still happening for me, and I'm very excited to do that. And so, yeah, thanks for having me on the show, Charlie. Thanks, Josh. Appreciate the opportunity to be on here, and yeah, look forward to meeting up next time.
Absolutely, us too. So thank you so much, Jeremy Koling, with us here on the Upshot interview series. And Jerm, we'll see you soon.
Sounds good, guys. Thanks.